That feels horrible.
Welcome guys, and in today's video we're going to be talking about blowouts. What causes them, how do we fix them, what do they look like? So if you guys are ready to check that out, then let's go. So let's start with the first question. Well, what is a blowout? Now some of you may already know, but for those who don't, let's go through it real quickly. And we're gonna use this piece of skin here. At the top, you see we have the epidermis, which is the top layer of your skin. A lot of times this is going to peel off. You don't really want your tattoo to be in that area. The next spot is the dermis, and that is the sweet spot that's right there in the middle where you want your ink to settle. And if it's there, everything looks great and dandy. The world is fantastic. If it is not there and you get into the hypodermis, which is just a fatty area, which is down here. If you get into that area, there's nothing to hold that ink together. There's no like muscular structures, nothing there to hold that ink. So when it hits that fatty tissue area, it just goes like, it's just like floating around a little bit. It can't really hold very well. And that is essentially a blowout. Now, sometimes the blowout can be minuscule, not really a lot. It just kind of looks puffy around that area, which you can see here. This is kind of more of a common blowout you'll see. And sometimes it's just a little bit in a tattoo, a spot here or there. Maybe your depth goes off, you just went too far down. And again, different parts of the body are gonna take ink differently. And every person's gonna take ink differently. So it can happen to the best of us, to the worst of us. It happens, and the best we can do is just know what it looks like, know how to fix it, know how to handle situations like that, and prevent that from happening again moving forward. Now in these photos here, you're gonna see that it hit that hypodermis and just pooled out, and that's really difficult. This tattoo right here is going to be a difficult one to fix because there's not a lot you can really do. There's not a lot around it that you can blend things in with, so there's that. On this photo here, you can see that again, these got pretty blown out. There's no crispness. You can see the crisp line maybe there in the middle a little bit. Did the blowout go all over her hand? No, but it is still pretty thick and in that general area. Situation like this, you redo this, but now the line has to be as thick as the blowout, so you're essentially covering up that area. That's how you'd fix something like this, and that's kind of how you fix some of these blowouts in the real world. If you can hide it, you hide it. If there's some color you can put in that area where it's all pooled out underneath, you do that route. If you can shade that area, go ahead. But if you're just tattooing some words or something and you're stuck with these blowouts in there, it's difficult. What are you gonna do? So keep that in mind. That's why I'm doing this video, so you guys know what they look like. You can kind of figure out ways to fix them now on yourself when you're practicing before you're out there with the stress to do it for somebody else. And again, here guys, in this one, there's a couple things going wrong here. As you can see, it's definitely blown out, but also the line is, it's pretty damaged. They damaged the skin quite a bit when making this tattoo. So there's that right off the bat. There's also that really bad blowout area. It looks bruised. It's just a bad way to go. And again, a lot of that times is just too deep into the skin. You're going too deep. You're missing the spot you want, and you're going to that hypodermis, and it's just flowing out. So the cause of blowouts is primarily from the tattoo artist, from the person performing the tattoo. Either they don't exactly know what they're looking for. They inexperienced possibly. That happens. Everybody's got to start somewhere, so we're going to be inexperienced at some point. So taking the time to educate yourself and understand what you're looking for can be so beneficial right now. The other thing could be the type of skin. Everybody, again, skin is a little different. You tattoo one area, it goes great. You tattoo the another area, it's like, what the heck happened? Again, I think it comes down to some experience. Also, you could be running beautiful lines the whole time, and you're in this one spot, something happens, you get a little bit of a blowout. A lot of times they're not super crazy. If you know what you're doing, you're gonna catch it a little bit. You're gonna see, okay, I see that little bit right there. I better stop that, modify what I'm doing, and move forward that way. Because even the best of artists are gonna make mistakes at times. So again, knowing what to look for, knowing what you don't want in your lining and whatnot will help you tremendously. Now, the other thing that can happen is you do the whole tattoo. Looks fantastic, they're happy, you're happy, great. They leave, you see that tattoo again, or they call you, hey, something's going on here, right? What can happen is it might not be your fault, okay? It might not be, it could be the way it was healed. So what happens sometimes, you get a tattoo and all that ink is sitting right there in the sweet spot, okay? And what happens is they fall, people hit their arm, let's say the tattoo's on their arm, right? Something happens, you hit it, you're bumping into stuff, you're working, you're picking up boxes, you're doing all stuff, you're moving around. Well, that ink sitting there, if hit hard enough, will kind of unsettle itself and fall into that hypodermis area and kind of almost naturally blow itself out a little bit. Now again, this also could be both the tattoo artist and the client's fault in some cases, in some situations. Maybe the artist, and it's not like you can go into the skin and look exactly, see where the ink's at, but the artist may have put that ink right at the bottom of the sweet spot, like right above the hypodermis, right? So all it's holding, but a little bit of motion and it's gonna fall, right? It's the best way I can explain it from how I understand it, so I hope that makes sense to you. Now, last one I want to take a look at before we get to the fun stuff and painful stuff for me when we show some blowouts on my leg. But lastly, if you have a blowout, and like I talked about before, it's not just a letter, not just a word or something, because those can be kind of tricky to fix up or cover up very easily. But let's take a look at this image right here. As you can see, the lines were all blown out around here, and what they did was work with that. They added color, they added these swirls to help mask what's going on. And this is a perfect example of how you can cover up a blowout. And for the most part, other than you, the people who saw it before that, would really never know. It doesn't work out all the time. Like we said, not every situation can be fixed something like this. But it's something to think about. That way you know, okay, I can put color over top of this. I can cover this up. I'm not gonna mess whatever this is up. You're good. So with that said, let's jump in and start tattooing some blown out lines. All right, so I have my leg all set up here. We're gonna run some lines and hopefully get some blowouts. So let me tell you about my setup real quick. We're running the Bishop wand shader with the critical wireless power supply and a quadrant 5 tight round liner. So that's our setup today. And again, I went with a smaller needle in hopes that maybe it'll puncture a little bit quicker and give me the blowout that I need without making me do a bunch of lines and hurt a lot, I guess. I don't know. Anyhow, so this is the setup. I'm using inkies on the back of my hand, and we're gonna be using dynamic black for, well, our black. So let's get into it. If I just accidentally blew out a line, that'd be one thing, but to know like, all right, you gotta go deep. You gotta blow this bad Larry out. Like, all right, come on, let's do it. These are our lines from last week. They're still healing. They're still doing their thing. Looks like a couple of these definitely aren't gonna make it the long run. All right, so let's run a basic line and just get comfortable here. Definitely feels like it's a little bit of too light of a line. We'll see. No, that's a nice saturated line there. Okay. Don't appear to be any blowouts so far. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's how much needle I have hanging out right now. I'm gonna run one more line about like the last one, and then the third one, I'm just gonna drop this all the way into the skin, push and run that line and see what happens. Okay. So if you were watching that shot and you saw how much needle was in and how much was left out, on this run, I'm gonna drop the whole thing in there. We're gonna drop in all of this and just sort of see what happens. Is this enough? Is this deep enough for this area of the skin, for my skin, to blow it out? And how much of a blowout are we gonna end up with? And I made these lines quite small because I don't wanna do this for very long. Are you ready? Okay, so there's that. As you can see, it is quite a bit darker, thicker. Hard to say if that's blown out. I can't really see too well from where I'm at right now looking at it. Maybe once I zoom in on camera later, we can tell whether it is or isn't. Right now, it doesn't look like that's actually enough. So, I'm going to throw my needles out a little further and maybe crank my machine up just a little bit more. All right, here we go. I love you guys. We're gonna dive this bad Larry in there and see what happens. Okay. Good God, it's still not blown out. Alright, I knew I was gonna work my way up to this little at a time, but looks like something's gonna happen here. It's certainly not a lot different, but we definitely have a lot more needle hanging out of the tube now. But we're going to attempt to put all of this into the skin again and see what happens. Okay, ready? Oh yeah, there we go. That feels horrible. Okay, looks like we're getting a little bit of a blowout there, a little bit of haze around the line. Again, I'm not trying to run these great, I'm just trying to get a doggone blowout to happen. From here it does kind of look like this could evolve into a blowout, but okay, another experiment I'm gonna do is I'm going to turn the voltage up a little more, go slower, throw the needle out a little more, and see if we can get something to happen that way. Let's crank it up to 9 volts. Oh, I can already tell you these feel plenty deep enough right now. They're burning, so I'm pretty sure they're plenty deep enough. But for science, I think this might be my last line regardless. We saw what blowouts look like. I found it's a little bit harder to do a blowout on yourself than you thought it would be, but let's do it. No pain, no gain. And I believe if you get up close on that, these two lines here are slightly blown out. Now, did we get any crazy super blown out areas here? No, we only got a couple little lines that we went, what I would say, pretty deep. And they still didn't blow out as bad as I was hoping for. I was hoping to get one of them brutal ones, but it does take a little effort, and it depends on what part of the skin you're in. You'll get some of those really bad ones. But nonetheless, I think here you guys can get a general idea of the difference. We kind of worked our way up a little bit deeper, more power. And here, you don't really want to see your lines looking too much like these down here. They look a little beat up. They look a little raised up. I was going a little too slow, which again, I was trying to get a blowout. So we're going slow, and we're throwing as much needle out that I could mentally deal with going into my skin. And that's the result, okay? Is it that crazy bloody blowout that we were looking for? No. Was it the one that I thought I was gonna be able to achieve? No. Am I being a little bit of a bitch? Yes. Now, understand that even though it was hard for me to get this to work out on my skin, believe me, somehow when you're doing this in real life, when you're out there tattooing somebody, you're not necessarily trying to blow those lines out, but they happen, and that's because it's the different parts of the skin. Different parts of the body. So when you're getting to a new area or an area that is prone to blowouts, take your time, back it off a little bit, see how that area takes the skin, and then adjust. It should take 1 or 2 lines to figure out how that area works, and then you can flow through that area, get to another area, and readjust again. That's how I do it. It's not too difficult. You'll get used to it, and it'll prevent crazy raised, really kind of goofy looking lines like I have here, and even worse, blowout lines. Now, the last thing I want to do here is, again, because we said that when I talked before, I said that the blowouts can either be caused by you, the tattoo artist, or the client, or a little bit of both. So here I'm going to slap this tattoo, and I will let you guys know as it heals if it gets worse post-slap or pre-slap. Oh, I didn't even hit that hard. All right, that's enough. Okay, 3 slaps, and we'll see what happens here, guys. One last look. As you can see, it doesn't look pretty. Does not look pretty. Okay? Guys, if you enjoyed this video and thought it was fun, you learned something, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the bell to get notifications, only post, go live, or anything like that. And until next time, guys, peace.